Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another session with Mr. Smith, your humble, hopefully always humble servant. And what you see on the screen there is a picture of the band, the biggest band in the 1970s, rock band that is. My main influence growing up as a kid, Led Zeppelin. Probably the most influential drummer, the guy on the left, John Bonham, in my humble opinion. Right? Everybody started playing differently after he came on the scene. Right? He influenced... Anyway, I'm not saying he was the greatest. I don't get into that argument of who's the greatest at this or that, right? But I think he was probably the most influential. But nevertheless, that's not what I'm here to talk about. If you look at the guy second to the left, the blonde guy, that's the singer, Robert Plant. And he has something to say now that he's in his 70s. It's very, he's got to be about 70-ish somewhere. I'm going to show you a clip. He gets together with the second singer for AC/DC, Brian Johnson. So if you know those two old rock bands, and you're a fan of them, which I'm a fan of both of them. However, both bands dealt with witchcraft and Satanism, and clearly, and they are on the left-hand path, so may the Most High have mercy on them. Regardless, I do believe that Robert Plant, the singer for Led Zeppelin, I think he's a good guy. I think he just was young, and he got into the whole Satanism and witchcraft, and he didn't really realize the consequences that it would bring. For example, he had a child that died mysteriously in a car crash in the 70s. And of course, John Bonham, the drummer, died at 31, I believe. And they said it was because he choked on his own vomit, drinking too much. That could be, but that's pretty hard to do. Or he might have been sacrificed. But one thing I do know for sure is that John Bonham was not a happy camper. So he had a lot of demons. So... hey, just so you know, when you play with the devil for fame and fortune, there's a big price on the other end of that. So you might want to come to the righteous side and stick with the Most High God. It'll be much better for you. But anyway, let's get to the clip at hand. And Robert Plant meets these two old geezers now. Robert Plant and Brian Johnson meet at a place, well, they'll describe it, in Wales. And I just want you to hear what he has to say, Robert Plant. And again, I think Robert Plant really is... I just believe, my humble opinion, he's a good guy. He just was gotten lost. And just let's listen to what he says, and then I'll explain why I'm doing this.
Well, I think it's Robert. He's got a great big sword. Robert, how are you, me son?
My dear boy.
Look at that magnificent old tool you've got there.
I know, but people talk about it all the time.
Now I think it's brilliant how you coming over there. I said, that's a Celtic warrior walking over that bridge.
Well, I would have been on horseback, but unfortunately my horse went lame. In 1973, Zeppelin made this strange movie called The Song Remains the Same, and each of us chose a kind of topic that we wanted to intersperse the music with. So I chose to come up here.
That's right, on a horse.
This is the very, very same apparel.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, the jeans don't work so well now. But no need to look down, Brian. That's enough of that. I've heard about you. This is the Mouthac Valley and the beautiful Mouthac River, which goes out to the Cambrian coast there. Beautiful, isn't it?
It's absolutely stunning. It's a bit woofy, but it's pretty nice.
This is called the Misty Mountains here.
Yeah. That's where you get a lot of your lyrics from, the mythology of all this Welsh stuff.
From an early age, my mum and dad brought me here. And at school I was really interested in the different culture between the original British tribes and the people coming in from Europe.
So Robert Plant talks about how the original tribes of that area were chased into the hills by the Europeans that came over. Now, I have a friend, a really good friend, and an extremely learned man who has done research and has pretty much shown that the original Celtics, in other words, the tribes that Robert Plant is talking about, were people of color, black folk. And a lot of them came down into the West Indies, right? And they were taken over by the Europeans, which I know would be the Romans. And so I just thought it was interesting that Robert Plant points this out. Now, I've never really known. Now, maybe somebody can tell me differently, right? Or if you have information, I will obviously listen to it and accept maybe I'm wrong. But usually Caucasians don't push other Caucasians off their land. It just doesn't work that way. And the Romans don't kick their own off their land. So chances are the original English in this area, the original Celts and Druids, were black. We know that King James of England, right, was a black man. We know the British royal family didn't ascend to the throne until like 1900, right? And they were the Saxe-Coburg family. They were from Germany, from, as Robert Plant terms, Europe. So we know that the British kings and queens of Europe, especially going back in the day, some of them were black. Isn't that interesting? Somebody might say, Mr. Smith, you're not black. Why do you bring this up so much? Well, Unplugged Wisdom is a truth channel. Give me the truth. And also, if you study the scriptures in the Bible, I have realized that it is important to point things, to bring stuff like this to light. Okay, Ben Franklin. If you saw one of my first posts, I talked about this, and Ben Franklin referred to Europe as being primarily black, tawny, or swarthy, aka people of color. And also, Caucasians are a very small percentage of the world's population. Right? Through movies and TV, we're made to believe that we are much more populous than we are. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being a small segment of the population. Anywho, but I think Robert Plant is basically telling us something here now. And of course, that is the Romans' MO. When they go places, they chase the indigenous people up into the hills. I don't know if that just got cut off, but up into the hills. They did it in North America and South America. So it stands to reason they might do it up in England. But I just thought this was interesting. I mean, there's a lot of information I'm not bringing forth because I want to keep this video relatively short. I don't want to, but it's interesting, and I think Robert Plant knows this. Now, there's something else he says here that I think is pretty cool. Check this out.
They just pushed the old Celts and the Celtic tradition back into these hills. And so when I was at school, I was really impressed by, not impressed, but intrigued by the difference between the two cultures, the history, the whole idea of mythology and stuff like that. So coming from...
He mentions the big difference between the cultures of the original Welsh and English and Druids and the Europeans that came in. So more evidence that they were very different.
In the Black Country, this compared to the industrial Midlands was...
Interesting. Robert Plant said that he came from the Black Country, the Midlands, the industrial area. Why would you call that the Black Country? I just find that interesting. Maybe more clues?
Such a relief to everybody.
Driving in, you know, from England and all, through these beautiful roads and the little villages. And I wondered to myself, why haven't I come here before?
Why haven't you come here before?
Well, you never invited us.
But look, and it's really great. Look at this here. It's empty. Plenty of room for everybody. I mean, we both...
He also says that that area is very empty. Plenty of room for everybody. I think Robert Plant is feels the same way I do about this overpopulated world narrative that the powers that be push on us, that I think is a bunch of crap. And I'll explain why maybe in another video.
You lived in places where there's no change of the seasons. You just kind of keep going. You get the suntan lotion out and that's it. But in this place, you really know where you are in the whole cycle of life, really.
All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, have a blessed one until we meet again. May the Most High keep you and bless you and protect you through these crazy times. Take care for now.